Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 43, Burning Sky Immortal. Wenren he planned to take the pavilion master no matter what. It was no concern of his that the Shang-Qing disciples wouldn't be able to save their sect master without the Lockhart herb. After all, he was the one who had injured their sect master. The idea that he would help him recover was laughable. Seeing Yin Hanjiang was about to leave with the pavilion master, He Wenzhou tried to charge at him, but he was held back by his fellow disciples. Shikshan, even immortal Qingxiu was a Xianyuan sect spy, so what chance do we have left? Lu Xinyi said, holding his waist. Just, bear it, okay. He Wenzhou's body relaxed, though his fists stayed clenched as he berated himself for his own powerlessness. If they didn't make a fuss, Wenren he naturally wouldn't exterminate all of them. Also, He Wenzhou was still important to the events of the third volume of The God of Destruction, Volume 3. Before reading the third volume, Wenren he decided to leave him alone for the time being. Before they departed, Wenren he glanced back at the heartbroken Bailey Qingmiao and transmitted to her, "You can follow this venerable one back to Xianyuan sect." Wenren he didn't mind that Qiu Kongxiu had exposed her identity to avoid being pushed forward to fight him. He had never expected that Qiu Kongxiu's work as an undercover spy would amount to anything. Getting between Bailey Qingmiao and He Wenzhou was already far beyond his expectations. But her identity put Bailey Qingmiao in a bad position. It was uncertain what would happen to Bailey Qingmiao if she returned to Shang-Qing sect, so Wenren he made his offer, letting Bailey Qingmiao choose for herself. Bailey Qingmiao shook her head wordlessly. She had sustained too much of a shock, and if it weren't for Zhongli Qian forcibly suppressing her emotions, she would have started sobbing on the spot. Qiu Kongxiu extended a hand towards Suhuai. She had been planning to raise Suhuai as the next master of the Hellfire Pavilion, to hell with Shikengzin. Suhuai also silently declined. His master was such an idiot, he had to stay. Zhongli Qian gave Wenren he a nod. With the influence of the heart-linking parasite, he had to return to Shang-Qing sect with Bailey Qingmiao. With him there, Bailey Qingmiao wouldn't face any threats to her life. The Shang-Qing sect disciples could only watch helplessly as Wenren he and Yin Hanjiang left. After spending a moment in a daze, Bailey Qingmiao brought out the moonlit frost silk and dashed toward the sea of flames. "Shimei, what are you doing?" He Wenzhou cried. "Rescuing people." Bailey Qingmiao wiped away her tears. Zhongli Qian's calm let her realize what she must do at this moment. She couldn't just remain heartbroken at Master Qingxiu's betrayal or shocked at Wenren he's ruthlessness. She had to search the field of lava for survivors. Each life she saved counted. Sensing Bailey Qingmiao's feelings, Zhongli Qian sighed. He said to Suhuai, "Do you know why that despite knowing Bailey Qingmiao is this foolish, I keep helping her overcome her infatuation?" Suhuai shook his head. "Because Bailey Qingmiao is compassionate." Zhongli Qian took off his blindfold, looking at the sea of flames below him. Even though she knows that Qiu Kongxiu was a member of the demonic sect, that she once saved the wrong person, she holds no regrets for her actions and still tries to save others now. In their 22 years of traveling together, this was the first time that Suhuai had seen Zhongli Qian's eyes. They were stunningly bright and perceptive eyes, calm and penetrating. Using the tracking curse, Zhongli Qian could see what no one else could. He saw that when Bailey Qingmiao charged into the flames, they parted for her and opened up a path. The flames feared her, yet wished to harm her. She sustained burns one after another, but she didn't flinch, continuing her search. None of the Shang-Qing sect disciples followed her. He Wenzhou had wanted to dive into the flames with her, but Lu Xinyi was clutching his waist tightly, in a way that said, "If you follow her, I'll go with you and die." He Wenzhou was furious, but in the end, he couldn't bring himself to push Lu Xinyi away. After watching for a minute, Zhongli Qian closed his eyes and tied the blindfold back around them. There was nothing more to see. "Master Zhongli." Suhui said with uncertainty. Look for yourself, Zhongliqian said to the Shangqing sect members. A figure covered head to toe with soot charged out of the sea of flames. She held a silver silk sash, the other end tied around several dozen unconscious Xiling Pavilion disciples. One of them carried a mature stalk of the Lockhart herb. Bailey King Miao's legs had been burned and she could only stand by leaning against Suhui. She wiped at the ash on her face and said, none of the pavilion disciples died. Someone transferred them to the place where the Lockhart herb grew. When it matured because of the flames, the power it gave off protected them. She saw that He Wenzhou had already put back the soul of the disciple Qiu Kongxiu had attacked into his body. Wenren he had overturned heaven and earth when he acted, yet not a single person had died. He had only taken the pavilion master. Bailey Qingmiao glanced over at Zhongliqian, then she fainted. Her spiritual essence had been exhausted with her battle with the flames. The Shangqing sect finally got their Lockhart herb. They departed, bringing the Xiling Pavilion disciples with them. Along the journey, no one spoke as their thoughts were troubled. He Wenzhou clenched his fists and said to the master within him, Master, the demonic sects have grown too arrogant. Just a few years ago, they seduced me and broke the spirit-severing array. Now they've endangered the disciples of the Shangqing sect and Xiling Pavilion. How can I become stronger? How can I get rid of that demonic mastermind Wenren he? Let's see, the blood demon elder said in his mind. There is a way. How? He Wenzhou said, his eyes brightening. As an ancient cultivator, I can tell that Wenren he is cultivating a path that can easily lead to deviation. He has already encountered a problem in his cultivation, so he won't be hard to deal with. We just need some help. He was the first blood cultivator, so of course he could tell that Wenren he hadn't consumed any souls, and was already at his limit. What kind of help? He Wenzhou asked. Let's see. I'm not too familiar with the cultivators of this age. But a few days ago, didn't you meet an unnamed cultivator? I felt that something was off about him. He gave you his message talisman, no? Yeah. He had one foot in the righteous oath and the other on demonic path, but he valued loyalty, so I thought he was worth getting along with. The blood demon elder chuckled. Well, I thought his techniques felt like those of a demonic cultivator. While the Shangqing sect was traveling back, Wenren he had already brought the pavilion master to Xianyuan sect. He immediately called over Hall Master Miao and tossed the pavilion master to him. This venerable one wants two things. First, this person needs to willingly hand over a book. Secondly, his soul must not be harmed for the time being. Use some gentler methods. Hearing Wenren he's orders, an eager smile appeared on Hall Master Miao's face. Understood. Hall Master Ruan, who was standing to one side, couldn't help but shudder. Everyone knew that in Xianyuan sect, Protector Qiu liked dead people the best, and Hall Master Miao hated killing people the most. In the 10 years of the Great Sect War, Hall Master Miao kept complaining about how it was such a shame that so many righteous cultivators died. One or two could have been left alive for him to raise bugs in. Wenren he had been controlling the demonic sect members for all these years, forbidding them from harming ordinary people. And even if they harmed cultivators, they had to pay attention to the laws of reincarnation and the cycle of karma. They couldn't act against whoever they wanted. Hall Master Miao had been stifled for so many years at this point and was unable to raise new insects without people to use as materials. He could only use his own body to feed them, but he was immune to all kinds of poisons and couldn't see the effects of his insects on his own body. He had made hundreds of bugs but had no one to test them on. Over the years, he had grown more and more off-putting. Now that he had someone to stick bugs in, he was giddy with joy. He promised over and over that he certainly wouldn't let the pavilion master die, and that he would let him live very healthily. Seeing how happy Hall Master Miao was, Hall Master Ruan brought out his tortoise shell, shrank inside it and rolled as far away from him as he could. After handing off the pavilion master, Wenren he stopped caring. Only results mattered to him and not how they came about. Wenren he shooed away everyone at the main hall and slowly walked towards his room. Yin Hanjiang followed as always, without questioning any of Wenren he's actions. In his room, Wenren he spoke with his hands behind his back, looking away. You can go now. Understood. Yin Hanjiang turned around, about to shut the doors behind him, when he was yanked back into the room. He saw Wenren he's eyes reddened as he wound his hand around Yin Hanjiang's neck, thumb pressing his chin down. Wenren he examined his face closely, as if deciding where to bite. Venerable One. Yin Hanjiang watched Wenren he without any fear. The sword in his hand clattered in warning. As a magic weapon, it had a will to protect its master. If it ever sensed danger, it would warn its master. Yin Hanjiang never stored his weapon inside his body. In that moment, the army-crushing sword shook itself free of its sheath, pointing its blade at Wenren he. The seven-killing halberd within Wenren he's body sensed the army-crushing sword's hostility and also trembled, bringing Wenren he back to his senses. Wenren he licked his cracked lips and shut his eyes. He let go of Yin Hanjiang. Venerable One. Yin Hanjiang asked, trying to quiet his wildly beating heart. He wanted to put his arms around his Venerable One, but he held them back, grabbing his arms with his own hands. Does the Venerable One have any orders? He said with forced calm. Sect leader Yin, in a few days, this Venerable One must go to the Sea of Blood. You must stay at Xianyuan sect and take on my duties. Before then, this Venerable One hopes you can reach Mahayana, so as to take the sect leadership. Wenren he spoke with his back turned, not looking at Yin Hanjiang. Yin Hanjiang's eyes dulled for a moment. He knew that as a blood cultivator, Wenren he must cultivate in the Sea of Blood in the future. He also knew that his own power was too weak and he would never survive there. It was better that he stayed within the Xianyuan sect to keep everything in order for his Venerable One. But he bowed his head and said quietly, this subordinate understands. Upon leaving Wenren he's room, he immediately felt an array go up behind him, preventing him from feeling Wenren he's presence. He looked down at his faintly trembling hands, then he took the ghost mask out of his robes and put it on. With the mask on, Yin Hanjiang miraculously calmed. A voice seemed to say in his mind, there's no problem. After the Venerable One leaves, just follow him secretly. Yin Hanjiang took off the mask. He thought, but if the Venerable One is gone for so long, what will happen to the Xianyuan sect? He put the mask back on and the voice said, isn't it easy to keep the sect under control? Protector Shu and Protector Qiu don't get along. Protector Qiu wants to kill Hall Master Shi and find someone to replace him. Hall Master Ruan hates Hall Master Miao. Hall Master Shi is the natural enemy to Hall Master Miao's bugs. Hall Master Yuan is worried about Protector Shu doing away with him and installing someone else. Just get them to fight and kill each other for 100 years, and the Venerable One should be back by then. Yin Hanjiang took off the mask, his eyes expressionless. After a moment, his head turned stiffly just like that of a puppet's as a brilliant smile appeared on his face. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Inside his room, Wenren he called out the seven-killing halberd, gripping it hard as it tried to escape. It was a part of him, yet when his blood qi raged out of control, it didn't recognize him as its master and tried to leave his body. As Wenren he stared at it, a technique to dissolve and absorb it appeared in his mind. He smacked himself forcefully in the forehead and managed to regain some rationality. He couldn't become a demon. At least, not right now. Wenren he had thought that since he Wenzhao ascended to the immortal realm at the end of Volume 1, Volumes 2 and 3 wouldn't appear in the cultivation world. He should only be able to find Volume 2 in the immortal realm. Yet Volume 3 had already appeared, and judging from the timing, it was around the same time as the first. Wasn't it possible that all 3 volumes had appeared simultaneously? That he had been lucky enough to get the first volume, while the other 2 had already been picked up by others and read them cover to cover. Abusive love affair, had chosen the most famous character with the reader Wenren, while the God of Destruction, Volume 1, had chosen the protagonist's good friend, Zhongli Kuang, and the 3rd volume had chosen the main wife, the master of Xiling Pavilion. They were all supporting characters, so the recipient of the 2nd volume should also be a supporting character as well. All the targets of the books were the closest people to the male or female lead, so judging from that, the recipient of the 2nd volume was most likely to be the demonic cultivator Sengenki, or the wandering healer Yao Jiaping. He had already started searching for Sengenki. Yao Jiaping was a wandering immortal whose whereabouts were hard to predict, so he was difficult to find. Actually, it would be best if Yao Jiaping had the book. He was a wandering immortal, so it would be difficult for him to take action against the big sects like Xianyuan or Shangqing. The worst case was if it was Sengenki who have it. If the demonic sect trader had the information of the 2nd volume and managed to deduce from it some contents of the 1st volume, their enemies would have the advantage over them. Thus, he needed to acquire the 3rd volume. He'd skin the pavilion master and pull out his tendons if he had to. While Hall Master Miao was interrogating the pavilion master, Wenren meditated by reciting a clear mind spell. Spending time alone in tranquil surroundings improved his condition by a lot. After 7 days, Hall Master Miao sent word that the pavilion master had given in and wanted to speak to Wenren. To reduce temptation, Wenren had sealed his senses of smell, taste, and touch, leaving only his hearing and sight. Yin Hanjiang followed him with a calm expression as he went to find Hall Master Miao. Hall Master Miao had the pavilion master in a brightly lit room, lying on the floor like a corpse. He was uninjured, but from time to time, a bump would appear under the skin of his face before disappearing. Who knew how many bugs were in his body? Wenren made everyone else wait outside and remained alone in the room with the pavilion master. Since his smell and taste were sealed, he couldn't speak. He transmitted to him, "Have you made up your mind?" "Heh," the pavilion master said with difficulty. "They don't call you, the devil Venerable, for nothing. So many ways to make someone wish for death, ways that I couldn't even imagine. Tell Hall Master Miao to take the bugs out of my body, and I'll give the book to you." "This Venerable One already gave you a chance," Wenren transmitted. "Since you refused, you don't have the right to negotiate now. Hand over the 3rd volume. After reading it, this Venerable One will decide whether or not to remove the parasites in you. You can continue to refuse. This Venerable One isn't in a rush." The pavilion master didn't want to endure the agony for 1 more day. After a moment of hesitation, he gave up on resisting. He reached into his lapel and withdrawing a book. Who knew where his kinkan pouch was hidden? Wenren wasn't concerned that he was plotting something. He was at their mercy and didn't have the guts. Wenren took the 3rd volume. On the cover was a ruined temple with a silhouetted figure standing before it. That figure seemed indescribably lonely and defeated. He opened it and saw on the title page, because of a large plot hole appearing in the story, the closest character to the protagonist has been chosen to help him form a soul bond with Bailey Qing Miao. The mission of this volume was to pair up the male and female leads. What for? Once he flipped to the 2nd page, he found a difference from the 1st volume. There was a summary, describing not the 1st volume, but the 2nd. The summary stated, "After many battles, he Wenzhou defeated the Burning Sky Immortal. Bringing his wives the Xiling Immortal and Bailey Qing Miao with him, he ascended to the divine realm." The Burning Sky Immortal? Probably like Wenren he was the antagonist of the 2nd volume, the enemy that Wenzhou had to defeat at the end. The readers would call him the final boss. Burning Sky. Seeing these words, Wenren was reminded of the 1st-grade immortal artifact sitting in the Xianyuan sect forbidden grounds, the Burning Sky Drum. End chapter. Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 44, Primordial Divinity. He set aside his doubts for the time being and continued to read, hoping the third volume would contain more information about the Burning Sky Immortal. Unfortunately, aside from the protagonists mentioning his name twice, nothing more was written about him. When he quickly schemed the third volume. A general overview of the story in the volume was that, after entering the divine realm, He Wenzhou was recognized by one of the gods as the reincarnation of a previous god. He made friends with the people he knew in his previous life, continuing to power up and beating up ascended gods. Everyone in the divine realm was now ascended gods, with the primordial gods all having long since fallen. The first two-thirds of the story was fairly peaceful. He Wenzhou's old friends and wives ascended to the divine realm one after another while He Wenzhou continued to make new friends and take new wives. Bailey Qingmiao, who had made plenty of appearances in the first volume, seemed to have all but vanished in this one. It was the master of the Xiling Pavilion who followed He Wenzhou the whole way, getting along perfectly with his new wives. In the last third of the story, things went downhill quickly. First of all, one of He Wenzhou's friends suddenly suffered chi deviation and became a demon, and their group was forced to kill their own good friend. At the same time, the news came that the barrier in the blood hell had been broken. The 180,000 demonic gods that had been sealed there since ancient times had escaped and lain waste to the human realm. That friend who suffered chi deviation still had direct relatives in the human world and had been cursed using his bloodline, which corrupted him. First the cultivation world fell, then the immortal realm followed. The ascended gods put up their best fight, but the destructive power and corruptive influence of the demonic gods were too strong. Anyone who faced them were either killed and consumed, or suffered chi deviation. In order to hold off the demonic gods' invasion of the divine realm, He Wenzhou's friends went to the immortal realm one after another to do battle. He Wenzhou, now the leader of the gods, also wanted to go, but at this moment, the master he had always trusted turned on him. It turned out his master was a demon, a real blood demon. He had taken so much care in guiding He Wenzhou in the past in order to steal his body someday. The blood demon elder had waited patiently for all this time, until the worlds were in chaos. With the help of the demonic energy all around, he tried to take He Wenzhou's body in one fell swoop. When He Wenzhou was on the brink of succumbing, Bailey Qingmiao, who had been hidden for over 800,000 words at this point, finally made an appearance. In order to protect He Wenzhou, she formed a soul bond with him. They joined forces to destroy the blood demon elder once and for all. However, Bailey Qingmiao had been heavily injured by the blood demon elder. When she died, He Wenzhou, whose soul was bound to hers, should have followed. But Bailey Qingmiao had done something at the moment before her death to protect him, so that he survived while she didn't. After Bailey Qingmiao died, as He Wenzhou sat there weeping, the cosmos shifted and the three worlds crumbled. The human realm, the immortal realm and the divine realms all became one. Most of the lives in the three worlds and the ascended gods were wiped out in an instant. It was only now that they realized that Bailey Qingmiao had been the last primordial god in her past life, born along with the heaven and earth. She had managed disasters, sending cataclysms to the human world, balancing the overpopulation of life and maintaining the equilibrium of creation and destruction. Such was Bailey Qingmiao's purpose. She had already obtained her divine nature in the human world and could ascend, but because of her love for He Wenzhou, she had given it up. Without Bailey Qingmiao controlling it, the divine nature had begun indiscriminately unleashing disasters. Because of the hate and blame of countless mortals, it was tainted by evil, eventually releasing the 180,000 demonic gods from the sea of blood. Even so, Bailey Qingmiao was still connected to the divine nature. Her existence maintained the order of the three realms. The instant she died for He Wenzhou, the last primordial god in existence fell, which resulted with the divine nature breaking free of all restraints. Following its original nature, it wanted to return the cosmos to chaos. It merged the three realms using the demonic gods to absorb all the energy in the realms, aiming to transform the demonic energy into primordial chaos and return all existence to nothingness. After understanding everything, he Wenzhou led all his wives and friends into battle. In the end, they all died and all of the demonic gods were consumed. After the death of his last wife, the master of Xiling Pavilion, he Wenzhou was the only one left in the world. He stood in front of the ruined imperial temple, gazing at his surroundings filled with devastation. Alone, he charged into the mass of demonic energy which was being transformed into primordial chaos. At the last moment before his body was dissolved into chaos, he Wenzhou's soul bond with Bailey Qing Miao took effect. He merged with Bailey King Miao's divine essence, gaining the ability to control the most primal force of the universe. In an instant, he became the divine emperor. Nearly all of creation had already been reduced to nothingness. As the divine emperor, he Wenzhou had the power of creation and destruction. He divided the heaven and earth into three realms according to his memory and then recreated his friends and wives as he remembered them. The Xiling Master and Bailey Qing Miao were also resurrected. Everyone celebrated together and lived happily ever after. Then it was the end of the text. Wenren he. This ending seemed satisfying. But the more you thought about it, the more terrifying it was. Each person saw the world differently. Having read both Abusive Love Affair, and The God of Destruction, Wenren he was especially clear on this fact. He Wenzhou's memories of his friends and the three realms couldn't possibly be the real realms and his real friends. If at the conclusion, he Wenzhou had chosen to accept everything and allow the merged world to recreate itself and give birth to new life, it would have been a new start. But was this world that he had resurrected from his memories a happy ending, or was he Wenzhou dreaming for innumerable eons alongside the fantasies he created? Was his choice the beginning of a world, or the end of one? Wenren he wasn't the only one with these doubts. Even the readers of The God of Destruction questioned this ending. I don't care how many girls the MC gets. I'll follow it as long as the plot is good and the MC is strong and kicks ass. But this conclusion, are you sure it's a happy ending? Flipping to the cover and reading the words God of Annihilation, then flipping back to the conclusion, I got a chill. Not gonna beat around the bush here. I like harems, I like watching the MC get all the girls. But I prefer the wives to be real people, not imaginary. Even if he Wenzhou has the power to create life, isn't he just giving life to his fantasies? I've been thinking about the ending for a long time. Is it incomplete? It doesn't seem that way, everyone came back to life and all. But, how come it just doesn't feel right? Of course, there were also people praising the author for writing a satisfying ending, and tying it in the title perfectly. But mostly, the reviews expressed doubt and confusion. Wenren he also wondered, would the Divine Emperor's mind remain intact after spending thousands of years with his false creations? Would he not suffer chi deviation? The story could end there, but would the people in it really be happy forever? At the very least, the master of Xiling Pavilion didn't think so. Wenren he was by now practiced in reading long novels and didn't need to spend 7 days and nights pondering about it, as he had with Abusive Love Affair. He had learned to read several lines at a time and quickly grasp the main points. With his powerful cognition, he finished skimming through the 3rd volume in a few hours, with the pavilion master still lying on the floor in front of him. Seeing Wenren he lower the book and look at him, he said, "This book mentioned that in the cultivation world, you were killed by he Wenzhou and myself also had a hand in it. I didn't want you to know, so I didn't dare hand the book to you. This Venerable One knows that. If you're trying to provoke this Venerable One with that, you can forget it," Wenren he said. Ever since reading Abusive Love Affair, he had known about his fate that the author has written for the devil Venerable, but he didn't care at all. Wenren he had cultivated the path of slaughter and had already let go of life and death. In life, he would struggle with all his strength. Meeting death, he would calmly accept his fate. If it was possible for him to change destiny, then he would set out to accomplish it. But if his death was predestined, then there was no need to worry over it too much. Is that so? The pavilion master asked upon seeing Wenren-he's expression. He smiled bitterly. But I'm not like you. I fear death. I especially fear being recreated by someone after my death, living out someone else's notions. Main wife? I understand myself. If I married He Wenzhou, it would be because I noticed Bailey King Miao's obsession with him and was trying to manipulate her feelings in order to kill her and steal her divine powers. Too bad the divine power was bound to Bailey Qing Miao and could not be taken. No matter how the pavilion master harmed Bailey Qing Miao in the book, she couldn't kill her. And He Wenzhou, whom she once had in the palm of her hand, grew stronger and stronger until he surpassed her. She was forced to keep up the act, continuing to be the kind and forgiving main wife. At least, she could follow He Wenzhou and benefit from the things he achieved and was able to gain power quickly, so she managed to bear it. But everything's different now. If I'd already known there were so many upsides to forming a soul bond with Bailey Qing Miao, I never would have clung to He Wenzhou. I might as well possess a man's body and marry Bailey Qing Miao myself. At least I won't be like He Wenzhou and took dozens of wives. I'll dedicate myself to Bailey Qing Miao alone, so in what way am I not an improvement over He Wenzhou? And then when the time comes, the divine power will belong to me. I'll become the divine emperor and the one who survives in the end will be me. The pavilion master's handsome face twisted. With his agitation, the goo parasites in his body became more active, making him twitch all over in pain. You're actually pretty rational for coming up with a plan like that, Wenren, he said. The pavilion master was quite a ruthless person, willing to change gender in an instant. It was too bad that the woman described in The God of Destruction had been a false identity all along. Yet the readers had all thought she was a considerate wife with no complaints, much better than the rebellious Bailey Qing Miao. Of course she held no resentment. She never held any love in the first place. She was just at He Wenzhou's side to benefit from him. She was actually happy for He Wenzhou to take more wives, so he would bother her less. Bailey Qing Miao had been the one with pure intentions, yet the readers had called her a difficult child. Things were rarely as simple as they appeared. The surface of a still pool hid innumerable secrets, and few people were able to see through to its depths. Wenren, he put away the book. With a glance at the pitiful pavilion master, he spoke, "This venerable one never goes back on his word. Since you handed over the book, you won't be killed. But this venerable has another request. I'm rather interested in this possession technique of yours that can take anyone's body, male or female." Since the pavilion master had already revealed his biggest secret, he gave up on resisting and easily gave over the technique. Upon hearing it, Wenren, he knew it wouldn't work for him. A wandering immortal's possession technique involved transforming one's own body into immortal energy, then driving out the target's soul and entering their body through the Beihui acupuncture point. That way, one could obtain a flesh body while keeping all the power of a wandering immortal. It was a fine technique, but it only worked for wandering immortals and not with Wenren. He sighed to himself, then called in Hall Master Miao and told him to remove the parasites inside the pavilion master's body. Hall Master Miao looked devastated. He bitterly walked over to the pavilion master, grumbling quietly, "Can't you fight for a little longer? Can't you hold out for a few more days?" The pavilion master. What was wrong with everyone in Xianyuan sect? Venerable One, should this person be killed or crippled? Hall Master Miao asked, acting like an eager subordinate. The pavilion master gritted her teeth. Wenren, you said you'd let me go after I handed over the book. This venerable one is true to his word, but this venerable one only agreed to keep you alive, not let you go, Wenren, he said coldly. The pavilion master could keep her act up until reaching the divine realm in the book, and could instantly swap genders after learning of the plot. Wenren, himself was impressed by such fortitude, but that didn't mean he would let her go easily. After some thought, he said, "Give him to Protector Qiu. In her time working undercover at Shangqing sect, she has, maybe not shown any results, but she certainly exerted some effort. Since she's lost her subordinates in the Hellfire Pavilion, this Venerable one might as well give her a bonus." The Pavilion Master. After the Pavilion Master was handed over to Protector Qiu, it was no longer Wenrenhe's business whether she killed him, turned him into a ghost immortal, or made an agreement with him to assassinate the devil Venerable. Hall Master Miao was dejected, but he didn't dare go against Wenrenhe's orders. He took the Pavilion Master to Qiu Kongxiu. Wenrenhe led an even more silent Yin Hanjiang than usual back to his room as he considered his next move. The third volume's events had told him that Bailey Qingmiao could not be allowed to die, and that she had to successfully merge with her divine powers and be strong enough to control it. Otherwise, all life would be wiped out and the three realms would return to chaos. Bailey Qingmiao had to cultivate the path of indifference. Yet, there was some hidden force that constantly obstructed Bailey Qingmiao's enlightenment. Each time she underwent a heavenly tribulation, she was totally brainwashed with her obsession toward He Wenzhou, the only thing remaining in her head. What was doing this? Was it the heavenly law, or He Wenzhou's previous incarnation? It couldn't be either. It was impossible for Wenrenhe to answer this question, as he was unable to understand love. He couldn't help asking the one next to him, sect leader Yin, how can someone tell themselves to forget a person over and over yet fail to do so? How can they resolve to do so every time, yet keep making the same mistakes, keep being trapped again and again? He was just asking a casual question. After all, Yin Hanjiang didn't understand love either. He didn't have any expectations for a response, yet Yin Hanjiang answered it because they really don't want to forget. Wenrenhe turned around and was surprised to see Yin Hanjiang's focused gaze on him. As their eyes met, Yin Hanjiang pressed his lips together and started, "This subordinate." "You're right, sect leader Yin," Wenrenhe said with a clap of his hands. "You reminded me. The only one who can make Bailey Qingmiao give up was herself. The divine nature was a part of her from birth, and after separating from the primordial goddess, the powerful divine nature gained its own consciousness. It was born to be obedient to the will of heaven and to become one with heaven and earth. Using the power of the heavenly tribulation countless times to influence Bailey Qingmiao's mind, it forcibly injected her feelings for He Wenzhou into her divine soul. The nature of the cosmos was emotionless and without love, and the primordial goddess had been the same. If all of Bailey Qingmiao's affection was focused on one man, there was no way she would be able to merge with the divine nature. At the end of abusive love affair, Bailey Qingmiao had already obtained her divine nature, but suddenly became besieged with thoughts of Shixing doesn't want me to kill people, or the sect taught me to consider the common people, appeared in her head. This was actually proof that she wasn't able to subdue the divine nature. She needed an unwavering will, the pure path of indifference, and a true compassion that viewed all life were needed in order for her to truly merge with the divine nature. Bailey Qingmiao had tried to forcefully take it in before she was ready and failed, thus bringing about everything that had happened afterwards. No one was affecting her. The one holding Bailey Qingmiao back had always been herself. Or it could be said that it was the cosmos. Bailey Qingmiao must cultivate the path of indifference. If she couldn't merge with the divine nature, it was better to kill her immediately, not letting her form a soul bond with anyone. Better the cosmos be recreated than for the conclusion of the book to come to pass where a single person dreamt up the world, alone. End chapter. Devil Venerable also wants to know. Chapter 45, This disciple is unwilling. Having figured out this issue, Wenrenhe took out abusive love affair, wanting to see how Bailey Qingmiao was doing at Shangqing sect. The Shangqing sect would have to do something about the matter of Qiu Kongxiu's true identity. Wenrenhe had read this book in front of Yin Hanjiang many times by now, so he had no intention to hide it. Besides, Yin Hanjiang never tried to look at its contents either. He only stared attentively at Wenren, watching him as he read. The comments were full of heated discussion about the developments at the Xiling Pavilion. Wait a minute, what just happened? The male lead's wife, the big female villain, is now a man and wants to marry the MC? Author, what are you thinking? Who knows, but this story's hits have been shooting straight up, and it's already in the top rankings. Let's discuss whether or not the Xiling Master is still the same person. What if he hurt the MC in the original story because he loved her, and wanted her to see what a scumbag he Wenzhou is? I don't think he's the original Pavilion Master. What happened is probably that the original Xiling Pavilion Master is dead and there is a new one now who has fallen in love with Bailey Qingmiao at first sight. A new handsome and rich male lead, I am looking forward to it. Wake up, previous poster. The true badass Wenren he didn't approve. He infiltrated the pavilion, slapped the pavilion master down and wrecked half of Taiyin Mountain. My god, the devil Venerable is so cool. Reading this novel now is like riding a roller coaster. One minute I'm touched by the pavilion master wanting to marry the MC, the next page Wenren he is carrying his body like a dead dog. You can't get attached to characters here. If you feel something for them, the next moment they'll betray your expectations. Exactly. I've been betrayed by my immortal Qing. She's actually the demonic sect left protector Qiu Kongxiu, instantly turning on Bailey Qingmiao's Shikshan even more viciously than Sister Shu. At least my Sister Shu snatches nascent souls. Qiu Kongxiu took his actual soul. Do both the Xianyuan sect protectors practice the 9 yin bone claw technique? Are their signature moves backstabbing? My Xuemiao ship is gone, it's melted, it's evaporated. Seeing how sad MC is at her betrayal, it's like she was just broken. My sweet innocent flower needs a hug. I have a question. How come in the original story when the MC kept being abused, I just wanted to beat up both the scumbag and the dumb bitch, but now when Qiu Kongxiu betrays Bailey Qingmiao, I just want to hug her. I don't even hate Sister Qingxiu, facepalm. Because the situation is different. The fault doesn't lie with the MC nor Qingxiu. And it seems like Qingxiu never actually tried to hide her true identity. We were just all blind and selectively ignored her questionable points. I guess, she was too straightforward. Wenren he dragged the pavilion master away, but left Zhongli Qian, so what was his purpose? Daddy doesn't approve of him marrying his daughter, he's only happy with his own choice Zhongli Qian, so he came to beat him off of her. The previous poster's reasoning is kind of strange, but it's still a valid explanation. Little Bailey managed to pull herself together, she charged into the flames and saved a dozen Xiling Pavilion disciples and even retrieved another Lockhart herb. Sob, I was wrong, I don't hate saintly white lotuses as long as they truly are good and selfless. I like saints, but I'm scared Bailey Qingmiao will get mistreated once she gets back to her sect. I'll keep reading though. She shouldn't be. She got the Lockhart herb for the Shangqing sect, so they couldn't possibly do anything too bad to her. Asterisk. Just as the readers guessed, the Shangqing sect was currently hotly disputing how they should handle Bailey Qingmiao and her master. After they returned to the sect with the Lockhart herb, He Wenzhou left to find the renowned healer immortal Yao Jiaping. He was the one who had written the sect master's prescription. He Wenzhou had met him while searching for a doctor, and after fighting around, he became good friends with him. Bailey Qingmiao was temporarily being held in the administration hall, waiting for the sect master to wake so he could decide how to deal with her. As for the Xiling Pavilion disciples, Shangqing sect offered them a residence in an outer courtyard, allowing them some time to accept the destruction of their sect before they decided what to do next. If they were willing to join Shangqing sect, they would be welcomed since Shangqing sect was still recovering from the Great Sect War, though they needed to hand over the secret techniques of the Xiling Pavilion first. In the original book, After the master of the Xiling Pavilion married He Wenzhou, the two sects merged and exchanged techniques, so this wasn't a big change. He Wenzhou came back with Yao Jiaping after just one day. Yao Jiaping was very thin and wore blue robes. As he was a wandering immortal, he had a youthful appearance and was quite handsome. Put alongside the male lead and love interests in abusive love affair, he fell short a bit but could still be considered within the upper ranks. He refined an elixir very quickly, and after he gave it to the sect master soon woke up. Bailey Qingmiao had done the Shangqing sect a great service, which made it even more difficult to deal with her. After the sect master woke up and heard about all that had happened in these past 30 years, he sighed weakly and said, "The Great Sect War was a major event. I can't make this decision alone. How about the administration hall? Elder calls in all sect members at deity transformation or above to discuss this matter." Thus, everyone assembled in the main meeting room of the administration hall. Bailey Qingmiao and her disciple Su Huai sat in the middle, with over 20 deity transformation cultivators seated around them. Since Zhongli Qian's position was special, the Shangqing sect let him sit in on the proceedings as a guest. He could also make proposals, though whether or not they would be accepted would be decided by Shangqing sect. Bailey Qingmiao was pale with everyone's gaze on her, but she still patted Su Huai's hand comfortingly. Her gaze was firm, as if she had already made mental preparations. Elder Qingrong cared about her disciple despite everything and spoke first. Bailey Qingmiao had been unaware that Qiu Kongxiu was a member of a demonic sect. She was part of the rescue team at that time, and there's no crime in saving a person. Moreover, it wasn't Bailey Qingmiao's decision to allow Qiu Kongxiu to join the Shangqing sect, it was by the unanimous agreement of all the elders. Qingmiao also risked her life to pluck the Lockhart herb from within the Sea of Flames. I swear upon my soul that Qingmiao has never betrayed Shangqing sect. She's a good, obedient disciple. Hearing her master's words, Bailey Qingmiao blushed faintly and a slight smile appeared on her face. "But my soul is in Qiu Kongxiu's hands," Lu Xinyi said gloomily. Bailey Qingmiao gave the 7-colored lotus heart to Qiu Kongxiu, letting her manipulate me with it. There were two main parties in this debate. One was Elder Qingrong, who cared about her disciple and believed she was innocent. The other was Lu Xinyi, who thought that Qiu Kongxiu had been plotting in the shadows. Bailey Qingmiao had traveled with Qiu Kongxiu for 30 years, so she might have already entered the demonic sect, and was returning to Shangqing sect to continue being a spy for them. She might have saved the sect master just for show. Maybe that Lockhart herb she had gotten wasn't a newly mature one at all, but the previous one that Wenren he had taken from the pavilion master and given to Bailey Qingmiao. This entire time, Zhongli Qian didn't speak, acting like Bailey Qingmiao's fate didn't matter to him. He Wenzhou also stayed silent. After all, the one accusing Bailey Qingmiao was his wife. He gazed at Bailey Qingmiao's pale face, but his Shimei never looked back at him even once. Finally, he couldn't bear it anymore. Ignoring Lu Xinyi's pleading gaze, he came forward and stood by Bailey Qingmiao's side. "Master, martial uncles, fellow cultivators, Wenzhou remembers all you have said, so I hope everyone will be willing to listen to a few of my words." He Wenzhou had gained a solid position at Shangqing sect over these past 30 years. Though he was a junior, his cultivation was higher than many of his elders, so his words held much weight. With everyone's gaze on him, he said, "There is no doubt that Bailey Shimei obtained the Lockhart herb. This proves her loyalty to the sect. What everyone's debating is whether during her 30 years of travel, she came under Qiu Kongxiu's control. This is also easy to answer. To repay her life debt to Bailey Shimei, Qiu Kongxiu gave her a token. All we need to do is have Bailey Shimei call over Qiu Kongxiu, while we set up a trap to kill her. That way, we can break Lu Xinyi's spirit vow, as well as strike a blow against a demonic sect protector." His idea could save Bailey Qingmiao and also free Lu Xinyi from danger, so for him and the Shangqing sect, it could be considered as killing two birds with one stone. The sect elders discussed amongst each other and found nothing wrong with it, while Lu Xinyi also had no reason to object to it. "Bailey Qingmiao, are you willing?" said the administration hall elder King Yu. Under everyone's gaze, Bailey Qingmiao stood up. She got to her knees, placed both hands against the ground and bowed her head deeply. "This disciple is unwilling." "Why?" Elder Qingrong and He Wenzhao cried at the same time. When she found out that Qiu Kongxiu was a demonic cultivator, she was clearly heartbroken for being tricked. Bailey Qingmiao had hit her head too hard against the floor, and when she looked up, there was a red spot on her forehead. She shook her head. After coming to Shangqing sect, Master Kingxiu never did anything to harm the sect. The Shangqing sect had sustained heavy losses in the Great Sect War, and its position as the leader of the righteous sects was shaking. When word spread that a wandering immortal had joined as a guest elder, the other sects stopped challenging our position, allowing us 30 years of recovery. During our 30 years of travel, Master Kingxiu exposed that the Nangguo clan was using evil arts to raise their heirs, that the disciples of Beluo Valley were capturing innocent ghosts to refine near-immortal artifacts, that a Buddhist sect was kidnapping women to cultivate the way of the Buddha of joy, and various other matters. I have followed Master Kingxiu for those 30 years and witnessed each and everything with my own eyes, remembering them in my heart. She may be a demonic cultivator, but she has never deceived me. She has never said she was of the righteous path. It was I who stubbornly tried to save everyone. It's true that the righteous and demonic paths cannot coexist peacefully, and if conflict starts again and we find ourselves on opposite sides of the battlefield, I will show no hesitance. But when it comes to using Master Kingxiu's debt of gratitude, using her trust towards me to harm her, this Bailey Qingmiao is unwilling. She looked directly at the elders seated above her, her gaze unwavering. I have not committed a crime by being friends with a person. If causing my Shikshan to get injured at Master Kingxiu's hands and allowing the demonic sect to have control over Lucia's spirit vow were crimes, then I am willing to accept any and all punishment for them. Her back was straight, and it seemed her tiny shoulders could hold up the weight of the world. Zhongli Qian clapped softly. Addressing the crowd, he spoke, "Miss Bailey has my deepest admiration. I will not plead for mercy for her and will not stand in the way of her decision." He spoke no more, and that it seemed like Bailey Qingmiao's life was of no matter to him. But everyone knew Bailey Qingmiao was connected to the crane-haired scholar with a heart-linking parasite. There was no way he would let Bailey Qingmiao die if things really came down to it. "Shimei." He Wenzhao fell to his knees and grabbed Bailey Qingmiao by her shoulders. "Why are you being so foolish? Don't touch my master." Su Huai brought out a thin iron rod. The moment He Wenzhao saw it, he felt an ache in certain part of his body and quickly let go of Bailey Qingmiao. Lu Xinyi was furious to see He Wenzhao touch Bailey Qingmiao right in front of her. With a dark look on her face, she shrieked, "Bailey Qingmiao has been brainwashed by the demonic sect. This disciple hopes the elders will decide in her favor." Shangqing sect was in a difficult position. With Zhongli Qian there, they couldn't easily punish Bailey Qingmiao. After some discussion, King Yu said, "Bailey Qingmiao, we have decided to confine you and Su Huai to the cliff of self-reflection in the back mountains and give you some time to think. We hope you will come to the right decision soon. If you insist on being foolish, then we'll have to take action." "I understand," Bailey Qingmiao said. Her expression was calm as she accepted her punishment. She and Su Huai were confined to the forbidden ground in the back mountains, placed under house arrest like in the original story. Originally, it was because the master of the Xiling Pavilion who wanted to marry He Wenzhao had said that Bailey Qingmiao was surrounded by disasters and had to be locked up, or she would endanger the entire sect. The Shangqing sect hadn't believed her, assuming she was just jealous of Bailey Qingmiao's relationship with He Wenzhao. But when they brought in a fortune teller, they found that Bailey Qingmiao's fate was an expanse of crimson and not even celestial signs of disaster were as ominous as the signs on her. She must have been the reincarnation of some demonic god. The readers all thought that this was a trick conjured by the Xiling master, but Wenren he knew that the fortune teller was right. Bailey Qingmiao was disaster incarnate, and her fate indeed looked like that. Bailey Qingmiao hadn't believed that her fate was such and had rebelled against her sex orders, so she was sentenced to be locked up for life. She was as pitiful as could be. But now it was quite different. Bailey Qingmiao was resolute in her decision, and had Zhongli Qian protecting her. Despite being under house arrest, her heart was calm and steady. That very night, He Wenzhao came to beg her to reconsider. She had said, "Shikshan, don't ask me to betray my principles and don't act so close with another woman when you are already married. Don't destroy the image I have of you in my heart." He Wenzhao could only return defeated. He didn't spend that night with Lu Xinyi. Gritting his teeth, he said to his master, "Wenren he and Xiu Kongxiu must have used some evil technique to control Shimei. What can I do to save her?" "Let's see," said the blood demon elder with a dark chuckle. "I have an idea. But you'll have to give your body to me temporarily." After a moment of hesitation, He Wenzhao agreed. Neither book had progressed past this point. Both books were written from their protagonist's point of view, so in The God of Destruction, it would be deliberately left out what the blood demon elder was doing right now, in order to raise suspense. After finishing reading the revisions, Wenren he faintly got a bad feeling. He had 3 books in his possession and could check on the progression of the plot at any time, but now that He Wenzhao was taking action against him, the book was leaving it out. Wenren he was aware that the book couldn't show everything. What could be included in it was only the tip of an iceberg, but now that it was precisely leaving out action taken against the Xianyuan sect, Wenren he was wary. Could it be? He still hadn't discovered the whereabouts of the second volume. Was the second volume different from the other 2 books? Or was this recipient much smarter than the others, and had figured out how to conceal his actions? Wenren he flipped through all the revised portions. One person's name hadn't shown up at all. That person was Sengenki. End chapter.